If you want to write a book and become a best-selling author, you're in the right place. At Elite Online Publishing, we can help you create, publish, and market your book so that it becomes a #1 bestseller. We work with a limited number of authors to ensure that they receive the best possible service. So if you want to learn how to write and publish a book that will empower you to smartly grow your brand, business, and credibility, apply today. We look forward to working with you.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Elite Publishing Podcast. I'm Melanie Johnson, your host, along with my co-host Jenn Foster. Hi, Jenn.
Hey everyone, it's a great day today to talk about publishing.
It sure is. And we have one of our favorite authors with us today who published with Elite Online Publishing, Lynda Paul. She's an international best-selling author in, I think it was 15 categories. Woo, woo, woo. We're celebrating that. Way to go. So Lynda, thanks for joining us today. So great to have you.
Hi guys, how are you?
Yeah, things are going really good. Well, tell us, Lynda, how you first started, why you wanted to write a book, and how you first started getting your book out.
Well, great. Thanks, Jen and Melanie. I'm so happy to be here with you guys, and I'm just thrilled to be able to talk about this book. I've been writing this book for 10 years, and there's 3 reasons why I wanted to get this book into the world. The first reason is I've been hearing some very negative narratives about professional athletes, that they are basically dumb jocks when it comes to money management. And I wanted to dispel that. The second reason is I wanted to make sure people understood that time is money. The sooner you understand how money works, the better things are going to be for you in your financial positioning. And the third reason why I wanted to write this book is financial education is so important. And so when we talk about financial literacy, it's important to understand that it impacts every part of your life. And so let me tell you a little bit more about what I'm trying to communicate here, is that when we talk about professional athletes, we're told that they're making really bad decisions with their money. And when I was doing my research for the book, I see things a little differently. What I see is these professional athletes are really focused in their professional endeavors, and they just don't have the time to spend to learn about money management issues. But I also saw some things that really disturbed me. What I saw were there's a lot of people who are entrusted in the position of leadership that surrounds these professional athletes, and they've taken advantage of these young people. And so I wanted to really expose these things in my book. And so I wanted to talk about, it is not the fact that professional athletes are dumb jocks, is the fact that they just do not have the time to be money experts and to be the elite athletes that we pay to see. So in my book, I talk about there's a few reasons why that we see them making unwise money decisions. And in my book, I talk about, primarily youth and inexperience. People are taking advantage of them, of course, but then there's biology. I don't know if a lot of people understand, though, that the frontal lobe of the brain is where we do a lot of our cognitive decision making. It is not fully developed in the male brain until they're 27, 28.
I thought you were going to say 72. And I'm like, well, for some men, I can see that might be the case.
Well, that may be true for some people. But, these young athletes are getting tons of money and they are in their early 20s, but the processing of the brain has not really fully matured until the 20s. And so there's a biology aspect of poor decision making. So I go through all of that in my book, and I'm really excited to share that information because a lot of people just don't understand. They just see what's in the media and say, you know what, there's another professional athlete making a very bad decision. And so I wanted to explain where these decisions are coming from.
So your book, Smart Money Moves by Lynda Paul, that is a book that you wanted to write for 10 years. So how did you finally get the pen to paper? What disciplines, what strategies did you use to actually get the content from your mind into a document?
Well, that's a really good question. I've written 4 or 5 versions of the book. So I was writing it, and life happens, you put it down. I had lots of buckets of loose leaf paper where I had an idea and I would throw it in the bucket. And I had some journals that I was keeping, so I didn't want to forget, when life happens, and my business was growing very rapidly and the kids were, very demanding of my time. And I've been married for 38 years. So my husband said, well, what about me? And so all those things, life kind of take you off course as far as some of the other things you would like to do. And so I was keeping track of things. I wrote the book 3-4 times. And then this last time, yes, it was during COVID, when the pandemic really basically shut down everything. And so instead of me traveling, which I do a lot of, I was at home. And so I said, I'm going to do it this time. And so I started my research, like, who's going to help me? Because I'm clueless as far as publishing. Ask me about a stock, ask me about an industry to invest in, ask me about the 6 areas of financial planning. I got it. But as far as book publishing, I was very clueless. So I started my research. And then I saw you, Melanie, on one of the podcasts, and I listened to, it was a pretty long podcast, which I was surprised that for my attention span, that I listened to every minute of it. And then I listened to it again. And then I would ask around, like everybody, from a professional standpoint, you want to get an opinion from people, to see what do you know about elite online publishing. And, I would ask around to see if it's a firm I want to be associated with. And so, I have to protect my own business my own business reputation. Yeah. So I wanted to make sure that I crossed the T's and dotted the I. And so I decided that elite online publishing was the partner that I really needed. So, and I thank you guys for giving me direction as far as my book. I had an editor, and she did a wonderful job helping me stay on track. A little bit too, sterile is the word I want to use.
She was a very stern editor for sure. I call it stern.
And so, so I didn't really want to go to English class because those days were over for me. But she took me there anyway. I went there kicking and screaming. But the book it's a wonderful piece of literature, and I am proud with all the partners that shared with me to get this book into the world. I'm very proud to share Making Sound Money Moves. It's going to change lives. I am convinced of that.
Like, that's one of the reasons that you write a book, is to change lives too. That's one of the bonuses besides everything else.
Yes. And I didn't know, not everybody cares that you wrote a book. If they understood the work that was involved, you think that there would be more plaudits for people like me. So I was like, I cannot believe how much work I put into getting this book in this perfected form, and no one cares. And I was saying, okay, the reason I say that is I was sharing with this gentleman, and I shared this with you, Melanie. I was sharing with this gentleman that, I just recently launched a book, and I wanted to, give him some information. He took down the information. He looked at my QR code. He checked it out. He said, oh, that's nice. But he wasn't really listening to me until I mentioned that my son played in the NBA. Wow. I mean, I guess it's just common for me because I'm around professional athletes, right? I didn't know how exciting that was for him. And I said, you know what, Melanie, I'm going to have to change my whole marketing plan because nobody cares that I spent 10 years writing this magnificent book. They only cared that my son was in the NBA and he played for the Spurs. And so I'm changing my narrative and say, you know what, I am Brandon Paul's mom, and I wrote a book. Okay, so there you go.
Well, I like that. I think to some people, they don't know what it really takes to become an international best-selling author, but they see the athletes and they know what it takes to become an NBA player, so that, you know, that your son has a little more status than you, even though you have quite a bit of status and years behind you, like clear off the charts, right?
Yes, yes. So I just, people prioritize a lot of different things, and it's very true. It takes a lot of hard work to get to the NBA.
Yeah.
For sure. There's a lot of people who dream of living that life and working hard. They all are working hard. Now there's a lot of things that come to play. You get lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
you stay healthy.
Well, there's a lot of work with being an author and getting the book written, which we've talked about. But then a lot of authors don't realize once the book is published, you hit that bestseller status, you think, oh, I'm just going to sit back and have my margarita now, right? Your strawberry free, right? I'm retired. And that's not the case. As you found out, there's the whole next journey of marketing the book. It's kind of like you were in college basketball. Now you're in the NBA. You did all the work to get to the NBA, but guess what? Now you got to work even harder than you were when you were in college.
That's true. And you have to work harder to keep your job as a professional athlete, because there's a lot of competition and there's a lot of people who want your job. And so, yes, you have to maintain your brand on and off the court. There's a lot of things. People think it's just playing basketball. Now, right now.
What are you doing to market your book? I mean, your plans, your book is athlete driven. So you have some plans. Let's talk about that. So our listeners who are writing a book realize, hey, look at what Lynda's doing to get out there and get the message out about her book.
Well, as we're having this conversation now, I'm actually in Miami for the Miami Heat Denver Nuggets final series for the NBA championship. And I'm here meeting with some of the Heat operational people. They've given me a very limited time because obviously they have a game to play today. So they certainly can't spend all their time with Lynda trying to tout her book. But they have a few copies of my book, and I hope to start a relationship with them next week after the finals have been decided. And so I am willing to do whatever it takes to get this book in the hands of 1 million people. That is my goal, to have 1 million people read my book and to change their lives. And so the good news is I do have a master's in marketing, so I do understand what it requires. So now I just have to carve out the time to make it happen. And it does take a little bit of time. You got to have some focus energy. So I am at this point have laser focus. So I'm excited to let people know about the book. I'm excited to talk about financial literacy. I'm excited to talk about the benefits of getting your financial house in order. But Melanie and Jenn, the thing that I'm most excited about is to educate people about compound interest. On page 136 of my book, I talk about compound interest and the rule of 72. I gotta believe that 98% of the people who are listening to this conversation that we're having have no idea that there is such a thing called the rule of 72. So in my book,
I've heard of it, but I don't think I could tell you what it is.
Well, it's how compound interest works. And so it tells you basically, it's a very succinct equation, and it tells you how long it will take your money to double given an interest rate. So if you are earning 6% on your money, 6 divided into 72 is 12, right? 6 divided into 72 is 12. So if you are earning 6% on your money, it's going to take you 12 years for your money to double. So if you invest $10,000 in an investment vehicle that's earning 6%, $10,000 will be $20,000 in 12 years. 20,000 will be 40,000 in 24 years. So the rule of 72 tells us how long it will take if you invest your money at a certain interest rate. And so obviously, the higher the interest rate, the faster your money can double.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have a higher interest rate, the other component of that is there is higher risk. So you have to manage the two. What type of interest rate you would like to earn on your money, and what kind of risk are you comfortable taking? So the rule of 72, if I can just get 1 million people understanding the rule of 72, it's going to change their financial life and the financial life, generationally speaking, for their families. And we're talking about creating generational wealth.
So my tip for you is when you're handing this book out to someone that you want them to read, you're mailing it to them with a note, or you're going to sign it inside. I want you to say, look at page 136. This could change your life.
And your kid's life.
And your kid's life. So think about it. If you send someone, a random person, like, a coach that you're going to send to, or an administrator for a team, this could change every player's life if they understand this rule, including you. You gave them a book, they're going to turn to page 136 just because they're so darn curious. What exactly is going to change my life on page 136? I can at least scan that and see it. So that's the tip. When you send a book to someone that you're trying to get your foot in the door, put that one page that you want them to go to that's going to help make a difference, and then the call to action is, wouldn't you like all of your players to have this book?
That's absolutely true. And so my husband and I, we were driving from Fort Worth back down to San Antonio, and I had 6 books in my car. And so we went to a Dairy Queen because it was time for me to get a vanilla malt. And so we went to Dairy Queen, and I took all my books in there. There was young people working there, and I gave them all a copy of the paperback book. And I told them, you know what, can you please turn to 136? It's going to change your life. And all 6 of those young people took the book. They stopped what they were doing. I felt bad for the customers waiting for their ice cream, but not really. Sorry, but not sorry. And so they turned to page 136, and they all stood there and read. And I explained to them what the rule of 72 was. They probably couldn't process it at the time, but I know that when they got home, they were going to read 136, and it's going to change their life. That is what I want. So everything from this point forward is going to be based on, what am I doing with my money, and can I effectively get it to grow? And so that's what it's all about.
You know who I think would be a really powerful strategic partner for you?
Who's that?
Would be Shaquille O'Neal.
I agree.
And the reason I say him is because he is really all about financial literacy. He's the one who read the Investments for Dummies, Estate Planning for Dummies. I don't know. So he's the one he realized right away. He did it on his own from educating himself. He incorporated, made all his family members employees of his corporation. So instead of just giving them money, they were all earning money that he was now not having to, have this tax. He made this whole thing, and he realizes, he talks about this, I've seen it in his little videos. So I think you need to send him either a book or a case of books with that note on there, because he's involved in all kinds of different programs. So Shaquille O'Neal is now on your radar. Put him on. He's your guy that's going to be your person.
I love it.
Actually, you know what? I actually have a quote in my book from him. When he was being drafted, they gave him, he had an endorsement deal where they gave him $1 million. This was before he was drafted. They just knew that he was going to be drafted high. And so he spent $1 million in one day. And someone came up to him, tapped him on the shoulder and said, let me talk to you about how to manage your money. So he certainly understands what we're talking about in this book. And I would love to partner with him. So anyone listening to this, if you know how to get a hold of him, so, because, I run against the gatekeepers. So anyone can get a hold of him. I'm open, LyndaPaul.com. Check me out.
Awesome. Lynda, what's one piece of advice you'd give authors before they published that you learned in this process?
To do their homework, really, to make sure they choose a really solid partner. This was a lot of work. It's like running I have two businesses that I'm running, but this is like running a third business. And so I think that you're going to need a partner to make this thing happen, and to do your due diligence, to check out Elite Online Publishing, to make sure that they are, your publisher is giving you the support that you need. And I am just feeling very blessed that God led me to you guys to help me get organized. I wasn't really procrastinating, at the time, because COVID, the pandemic and the shutdown of America or of the world helped me to get focused on the book. So I was already pretty laser focused to get finished with the book, but I still need some directional support. And so thank you so much for doing that for me. I appreciate it.
Great. Well, get Lynda's book. She was tremendous to work with. She is really top notch. She knows what she's talking about. Making Sound Money Moves, the Financial Playbook. Grab her book. It's on Amazon and everywhere else where books are sold. And if you have any questions and you would like to become an author and work with us, reach out to us, eliteonlinepublishing.com, and hit the author submission button. We'll see you next time. Thanks everybody for coming. Appreciate you.
Bye.
If you want to write a book and become a best-selling author, you're in the right place. At Elite Online Publishing, we can help you create, publish, and market your book so that it becomes a #1 bestseller. We work with a limited number of authors to ensure that they receive the best possible service. So if you want to learn how to write and publish a book that will empower you to smartly grow your brand, business, and credibility, apply today. We look forward to working with you.